Okay, can everybody hear me?
Awesome.
Test. Can you hear me?
I was just going to let him know so he doesn't. I run home, man. I would not.
Okay, I'll call to order the September 20th, 2021 regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. The first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and after that I'm going to have our Pastor Josh Frazier come forward for the invocation. So if everyone would please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. God in heaven, what another beautiful day, even though it's a rainy day, to be able to come and make decisions on behalf of our county. We thank you for the ability to be able to come to you in prayer. What an honor and a privilege that is to be able to bring requests to you. I think back over the past several weeks and even month of things that have happened and the way our community has come together, and I thank you for that. I thank you for the loving hands that have reached around our fellow neighbors and just helped in times of great need. I pray that that would continue, that sense of camaraderie and that sense of love and care for one another, a sense of brotherhood and that is like a family, and we ask that that would continue. We thank you for the ability to be able to come together in a sense of wanting to move forward together as a county and make decisions. And I thank you for each person that's come and has tried to be a part of this and that wants to be a part of this and speak on behalf of our county. Even though sometimes we all have differing opinions, I pray that you would unite us together and in my opinion, one of the most beautiful places on earth here in Haywood, North Carolina. I pray that you would continue to give us guidance and wisdom in all that we do. I thank you for our commissioners, all they do, and for the county and city officials that make up Haywood County. I pray that you would give them wisdom and guidance in all that they do. We thank you for the many blessings that we have. We ask that you would be here in this meeting today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Josh. Okay, the next order of business is the public hearings, but we do not have any tonight. And then our next order of business are a public comment session. I do have one person that signed up to speak. Citizens need to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and there'll be a little bell or buzzer go off there. If you would finish up your comments after your 3 minutes is up, I would appreciate it. Our first speaker is Stephanie Bell. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi guys. Yeah, here I am again. I'm fighting for the mask off of our children, and we've had this discussion and it's beating a dead horse. But maybe we should talk about hypocrisy. That's a fun word. Like the Met Gala and all those elite people getting together without their mask on. Or maybe the Emmys last night where they rub elbows together. Or how about the fact that you can just go into a restaurant and sit down at a table and then remove your mask? Should we replace the tables in our kids' school with restaurant tables? Because then they'll have the freedom to breathe air. What's happening in our country is tyranny at the highest level. And it's coming down on we the people, and we're tired of it. I know that there's not many of us, but I promise you they'll get the courage to stand up eventually.
Miss Bell, there's people can't hear you. Could you speak into the microphone? I'm having a hard time.
Yes, sir.
You can pull it down.
You can pull it down closer to you.
Yeah,
Is this better?
Yeah.
It's not on. I have a loud mouth, so I can talk a lot louder if you need me to. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that we are American people. We should have the liberty and the freedom to make our own choices. I forgot to bring my paper up here, but I have a data sheet that's printed off directly from the website from the health department that says the COVID deaths literally does not affect the children at all. The first death that we have is at 29 to 40 age range. When we walked out of the school board meeting, whenever we won against the mask optional, I heard Sarah Henderson myself say that she was going to make this difficult for us, and she has, because she has made the quarantine on our children longer than what the CDC even recommends. This is personal for her. I just think that we should have the freedom to make our own choices. Those are my children. I carried them for 9 months. I ate the right food. I delivered my children. I care for them day in and day out. I wash their clothes. Not one of you can tell me their name, their favorite color, what they like to play with, what their favorite food is. So why should anyone be making the health decisions for my children or for me? This federal vax mandate, that's against the Constitution. People should have the decision to make whether they want to or not. It's only my body, my choice when they're killing innocent babies in the womb. This is not okay. You guys control the health department. I noticed the CARES Fund Act, $1.2 million went to their payroll salaries. For what? What are they doing except for putting cuffs on us and masks over our children's faces? We should have a choice. And I need y'all to stand up, please. Help us at a county level because local action has a national impact. Help me, please.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak. Would anyone else like to address the board tonight? Okay. Yeah, you can come on up. Just state your name and maybe where you're from.
I guess
They-
public comment.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. That's Small Business Administration. They'll be on the agenda with FEMA.
Right.
We'll do that together when
Yeah.
you're ready.
Okay. That'll be under Constituent Concerns, Bryant. Is that one? Okay. Yeah, we're going to, yeah, okay. Would anyone else like to address the board that's here? Okay. I'll close public comment and we'll move on to Constituent Concerns, and we've asked John Boyle from the Federal Coordination Officer for FEMA and Joe Stanton, Assistant Director for the Recovery for the North Carolina Emergency Management, to provide a 10-minute overview. And then we'd like to ask y'all some questions maybe afterwards. So, John, if you want to come on up, or Joe, or whoever you guys have here tonight would be great, because I know you're going to push out information that our flood victims need to know about. And welcome.
So what I'd like to do initially is Sharon Gadbois, if she would come up as well. And Sharon is with the Small Business Administration.
Okay.
And between us, we try and cover as much of the declaration as possible in support of the county. So I definitely want to invite Sharon and Terrell Perry to be with me, and I'll cover a few points and I'll turn it over to the SBA and you guys can cover a few points. A little bit ad hoc on this, but we tried to pull it together. So what I want to do is kind of just cover some key things first by saying good evening. How are you this evening? It's a little rainy and interesting weather out there, but we're hanging in there. We're here because of the disaster and the damages occurred from that disaster, both to your citizens and to public infrastructure and facilities. We're working very closely with the county on all of this. The state, Joe Stanton, Todd Wright have been our partners. We're here because of you and the state. We're not here any other reason than the reason that you've asked us to be here and support. And that is with everything. And I'm a local government guy, so I cut my teeth in city and county government. So it begins locally led. That's what you're doing now, and thank you for that. State managed, federally supported. So between myself and the SBA, that's our job. We can't make you whole. We can't make people whole after disasters like this. whether it happens in Louisiana or here, and we've all seen what happened there in Louisiana. We don't have that ability. No one really does. But we can't take the place of insurance. We want people to have insurance, and that's the first line of defense. So we're able to provide some help to get people over the hurdles that they face right now. We're able to provide technical support to the county to help address issues, and we're able to provide resources for public assistance to help with solving infrastructure damage that's occurred. And that's why we're here. So the assistance available is both individuals, households from Tropical Storm Fred. That's our focus right now. We've actually been focused in with the people of the residents of Haywood County that are staying at what we call non-congregate sheltering, basically hotels, and trying to focus on getting them resources as quickly as possible in this process. We want to make sure that everyone applies. Everyone that's been affected by this declaration, please apply. The FEMA 800 number, 800-621-3362. Please distribute that to your constituents. Make sure they're aware. Call FEMA, get in there. Whether they think they're eligible or not, give the call. Get it started. Get registered. You can also go online to disasterassistance.gov, which everything they need is right there online, or there's a FEMA app. So right from the smartphone, you can apply to FEMA for assistance, which means you can also upload the documentation. Everything that you need to get FEMA assistance can be right there in the little phone. So that's a good thing. As of September 19th, we have approved $1.27 million for 226 households. So we're rolling already. It's going well, but that's in Buncombe, Haywood, and Transylvania counties. So that's the 3-county combined area that we're working in. And in Haywood, we're at about $1 million just in this county for 169 households. And we're constantly processing more applications daily. I think we're averaging a little better than 75 applications a day coming in. So right now we have disaster survivor assistance teams on the ground. Some of you may have seen we had the big white FEMA RVs in Crusoe and Canton. Those are there to help support the effort, so they provide communication support to the disaster services assistants. The disaster services assistants go out with a little iPad. They can take the application of disaster survivors right there in the field as they work with them. The 2 mobile registration vehicles, right now we're going to keep them pretty well situated in Crusoe because that's a big impact area. And we do notice that there's some areas self-service is a little spotty. So that'll keep it going there. I think we're going to move the one we're looking to move the one in Canton a little bit, maybe over to the church parking lot or something where it's a little more visible to the community. What I'd like to do is turn it over to the SBA and have you cover down on some of the programs. And as I do that, I want to say that people that register for FEMA, some will get referred to the SBA. And when you get referred to the SBA, it'll be, hey, you got to take out a loan. No, I don't want to take out a loan. I can't afford a loan. This is why I want to make sure everyone's aware that taking out that loan, filling out that application is an important part of what I'll call the Federal Disaster Recovery Assistance process. And I'll let Terrell, sorry, kind of give a little more detail on that and how we work jointly in helping survivors get assistance. So Terrell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you tell we're just meeting each other? Thank you so much for having us and for allowing us to speak to you this evening. My name is Terrell Perry. I'm with the SBA. I'm the lead public affairs specialist for the North Carolina disaster having to do with the remnants of Tropical Storm Fred. We're here to help. That's the bottom line. We're here to help. And we want to make sure that the citizens and residents of North Carolina recover from these terrible, terrible floods. I was in Canton Sunday, and I saw some of the devastation personally, and I have to tell you, it touched me. So we're here to help. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of some of our programs, really quick, high-level bullet points. If you'd like more information, you can certainly come to us. We have 2 business recovery centers open right now today. We've been on the ground since September 10th, and we have one at Haywood County, here in Haywood County, at the Haywood Community College Regional High-Tech Center. I've been told it's referred to colloquially as the High-Tech Center. So it's at 112 Industrial Park Drive. And you kind of have to weave through the building to get to us. So keep looking if you don't see us. Walk to the rear of the building. We're there open 9 to 6 every day, Monday through Friday. We have a second center in Buncombe County at the AB Technical College, Community College in Candler, and that is at 1465 Sand Hill Road. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 as well, but they're in addition open on Saturdays too, from 10 to 2. Anyone, homeowner, renter, business owner, nonprofit, can go to either center to apply for an SBA loan in person. You can also call our 800 number to apply, call the 800 number for information about applying. You can call the 800 number to receive an application, a paper application, if you don't feel comfortable or don't have access to the internet at the moment. You can call that number. They'll send you a paper application. So those are the 3 ways to apply: in person, online, or getting a paper application. We have a number of loans available. I won't go through the details of all of them unless you'd like to hear it. But we have physical loans, physical property loans, personal property loans, and mitigation loans. Okay, so physical loans are open and available for homeowners and business owners. That treats the structure, okay, the building itself. Personal property loans treat the contents of the building. And those loans are available to homeowners, renters, and businesses. Many people, homeowners and renters, don't know that the SBA does allow or provide loans to individuals for recovery. So that's an important point to convey to the public, that SBA, the majority of SBA's disaster loans go to individuals, homeowners and renters. We do have mitigation loans too. Mitigation loans are to mitigate, trying to think of a different word, but to mitigate future damage to your home. Grading away from the structure, raising the structure, implementing whatever tool or device that is needed, French drains, sump pumps, those kinds of things that will mitigate future damage to the structure. one of the most important things about our loans is repayment, and you have 6 months to decide. Where have you heard of that before, right? Most loans you have to either sign or say yes or no right on the spot. But you apply and you have 6 months to decide whether or not you want to actually take the loan. You have 18 months to start repaying the loan, 18 months from the day of the promissory note. And you can also take the loan in smaller portions. So if you're approved for a $50,000 loan, you can take the first, and you feel like you may need 50, you may not. You can take 10 or 15 or whatever increment you'd like, and then come back to us within 6 months to get more if you feel you need it. And that pretty much sums up the whole of our program. Of course, there's plenty of details, but we do encourage people to dial our 800 number, which is 800, 659. I always forget it, sorry. 659-2955. I'm going to memorize that one day. I always get it confused with the TTY number. 1-800-659-2955, or go on to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov/ELA. Thank you so much, and based on your questions, that is the...
Stay here.
Yes, okay.
And that's what I wanted to do, is just make sure that we're here to answer questions that you might have. And I've got some handouts that. So the type of documents for FEMA or for SBA? Okay. With FEMA, it'll relate to, it'll vary a little bit. So if you're a renter, you'll need to document the rental agreement or some form of documentation that shows you were that renter and you lived in that house or apartment during the declaration. And there's a growing amount of flexibility in how people can prove that. And I'm going to use home ownership as the example. There are people in our country all over that inherit property. They don't necessarily have a deed. It came because great-grandfather had it and it passed down. There's a little more flexibility in demonstrating that ownership right to that property. So all the way from, receipts of the improvements that have been made to self-certifying that, great-great-grandfather set this up. So we've got a lot of flexibility in documentation, and part of what we're going to do is as people apply, that documentation requirement comes into them and they say, oh, well, you need, 5 documents. We'll have a setup so that people can drive up and pop the trunk. Here's the 5 documents. We'll go in and scan them, bring them back, hand them to them, and go. So that, if they can't get them scanned, we'll help with that. We'll find ways to help make sure people get that done. And Terrell, if you want to cover SBA.
So the question was, what documents do we need? For homeowners and renters, all we really need is your form of ID to get things started. And for businesses, there is a laundry list. Some of them are, if you go online, there's a list there. But the first 4 that kind of pop in my mind are your P&L statement, income statement, taxes, and any revenue, accounts receivable, that kind of thing that you're anticipating to pay out. But there is a laundry list that I haven't committed to memory, to be quite honest with you.
Letter of decline showing that there was no coverage, and I thought maybe if you would mention that, and I'm sure there's other documents that they need to begin making application, I would think. So that's the reason I was asking that question.
So I couldn't quite make all of that out, I apologize.
That's okay. So I'm an insurance agent by trade, and we have had several requests for letters of declining coverage or the lack of coverage in order to proceed with FEMA. And I just assumed, because we're getting several requests for that, that there would be other documents they could have ready before they made application.
So if they're insured, that's going to be the first thing that comes off of any funding that FEMA would provide. If they're not insured, let me give you a couple scenarios here. So the National Flood Insurance Program, let's say a couple years ago there was a flood and you got FEMA assistance. At that time, you would also get a National Flood Insurance policy with that. And FEMA will pay for 2 years. After that, it's yours. And you stop paying for it after 2 years. Then then the next flood happens, and here we are again today, and we go to that applicant, we're going to say, you should have held that policy. You should have continued to pay for that policy. And so there's going to be an issue with that. In a lot of instances, being in insurance, you probably know, insurance doesn't typically cover the water damage from a flood. So, you know, they need that insurance for other purposes, but it's not going to cover the losses in this flood instance. We really want to promote the importance of getting onto the National Flood Insurance Program so that we don't have to do this all the time. They have that coverage. Did that cover the question?
Sort of, yeah. I just wondered if there was anything they could have ready before they filed with you.
Okay.
Just to make it easier for the folks.
I got a question. There was back in '04, there was some talk about a 3 strikes and you're out policy per address. If that address, if the facility there had been, or house, whatever, had been flooded 3 times with the FEMA National Flood Insurance, is that still valid? I don't know if that was with y'all or the state, where they would actually, after 3 claims, they would refuse insurance and then go ahead and condemn the property, or?
So they're being refused insurance from the National Flood Insurance Program.
Is there a policy with you folks that after there's three claims filed, 3 floods, 3 catastrophic floods?
Like a repetitive flood?
Yes.
Okay. So what we'll typically do is, with repetitive flood, we'll start working with the county or the city in terms of how can we engage in mitigation from that. That might be elevating the house, or it might be relocating the house. There's a lot of different options under that. So repetitive flood is a part of I'll call it a part of the process. If you have insurance and you keep insurance, it's going to be used for the flood events that occur. But when it's constant, we're going to start having a conversation about how do we improve the situation so that we don't have that problem. Does that help?
That helps. What are the steps? What are the options for curing that problem?
I think our goal is to try and get people out of repetitive flood situations by either getting them up further in the air, which can be a big challenge sometimes, or relocating it, or using other methods to reduce that problem. And you heard there's SBA resources and there's FEMA resources to do that, and that helps reduce the impact of that repetitive flood. The risk, I think, in insurance business, it's about risk. So repetitive flood is going to drive rates higher. So, and each time it happens, it's going to cost more to make the repairs. And what we're noticing is, it's, the floods we're seeing from, 5, 10 years ago are worse now than they were 5, 10 years ago. So it seems like we're in a cycle where it's not getting better, it's getting more of a challenge.
I know the question I've got, I know Commissioner Rogers and I, we live over in that area, and I got calls early on. I know he did because he spoke to me about it. There's some residents that had 2 floods back in 2004, and when this thing hit, I had a resident call me and they said, we're tired. If FEMA would just give us fair market value for our house, we wouldn't bother putting it back. We want to sell out and move to higher ground. Is there an option for those folks?
So I will say it this way. FEMA doesn't buy the house. We have the programs that allow the county or the city to do that. So that's the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which is a part of this disaster declaration. So I would say yes, absolutely. If a resident comes and says, I'm tired, I want out, we can work with you and give that technical support. You have your county hazard mitigation plan tied in with the state hazard mitigation plan. That's that process. We don't buy the land. It's going to become your land, and you guys figure out how you want to use it. It all stays local. We're just going to be the funding source.
Yeah, the last time that was the state that did the buyout, and then the state deeded the property to the county. So that's kind of how it worked last time when I guess they appropriated funds to do that, and then they did, and then, but of course, this area, while it flooded, it wasn't as severe as it was this time, in the Crusoe area specifically.
I guess that includes the businesses as well. If there's a business, I know of a constituent right now that he claims that he's been flooded 4 times. He said 3 legit, but a 4th time he did get flooded. And he's saying the same thing. I'm tired of doing this. This time it literally blowed the walls out of his building before he could clean his tools and come back. But now he's moved to a different location, and he's asking that question, can I be bought out if it comes through the state to us? But maybe you can speak to that.
In a way, and commercial property is a bigger challenge. Talk to us about it and we'll work it, and I think SBA has some options for that as well.
He said he did come to you guys and I think file a claim. They referred him to the SBA, but he's one of many that's said what you said. No, I don't want a loan. I just want to be bought out so I can move and carry on with my business. So I don't know, once they say no to a loan, is there options outside of that, or is that the end of the line?
That's a good question. What I would say is to probably have that person discuss it with a loan officer. They may not have their own personal loan officer because they refused the loan. However, I think it's probably a question better addressed by a loan officer. Yes, sir.
Okay.
One thing that I do want to say is that if a loan is accepted, and, if a person, homeowner, renter, business, accepts a loan from us, we do require flood insurance for the term of the loan. And we require hazard insurance for the term of the loan. So you have to have flood as well as homeowners or hazard insurance for the term of the loan. And usually those terms are 15 to 30 years. As far as mitigation is concerned, if a property, whatever the total property, physical property damage is, the person or business can receive, the homeowner or business can receive 20% of that amount to mitigate future occurrences. So, example, if they received a $100,000 physical property loan for the structure, they can receive up to $20,000 to mitigate future flood occurrences. Yeah, and
I'm sorry, are those loans qualified like other loans are based on the value of the property, the credit worthiness of the person making application?
that is a loan officer question.
Okay.
We
And
do
are they
look at
low
credit. We do look at credit.
Okay.
But however, we are a little bit more lenient than most people think of credit or think of loaning institutions. We take more things into consideration, wider things into consideration. We ask for and require collateral if it's available. So if you have other property available and there's collateral available with that other property, we do require collateral. But in terms of, debt to income, all those kinds of questions, that's a little bit deep too. That's above my pay grade.
And are they low interest loans, lower than what they could typically get at another lender?
Say it
Are they
again.
low interest loans, lower than what they would typically receive from another lender?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They're the lowest interest loans I think they will ever find. Homeowners and renters can receive for this particular disaster, and the interest rates change per disaster. But for this particular one, it's 1.563 for homeowners and renters. And for businesses, it's 2.855. For nonprofits, it's 2%. And we do invite nonprofits to apply for property loans as well as idle loans. That's one of the ones that I didn't mention. Economic injury loans, businesses are eligible for economic injury loans, and nonprofits are as well.
So if you have a home and you lost your home, you can get a small business administrative loan to build back through the SBA. Is that right? Possibly.
That's right in a manner of speaking, yes, sir.
I mean, they need to make the application. Because when I hear small business, administration, I'm thinking, that's not home loans, that's small businesses.
That's right. That's what most people think. That is exactly what most people think. And in our other lines of business, that is true. However, in the disaster line of business, so to speak, for SBA, we cover the majority of our loans. I'd say even taking a guesstimate at up to 85% of our loans go to disaster loans, go to homeowners and renters.
Well,
yes, sir.
That's good. Okay.
That's actually why we wanted to talk to you tonight, because it's really hard to get that message across to your survivors.
Right.
And any help you can provide us in letting the people that were affected by this disaster know that this is a good thing. It's not business, it's for homeowners as well. And they can find a lot of different paths. Our partners over here have, when you sit down and go through the various options and opportunities there are, you can start working the mitigation side, the National Flood Insurance Program side, and the SBA, and find yourself in a new location without any worries about flood in the future, and get a new house, and all the things start to come together because you avail yourself to multiple layers of resources available for the declaration. And that's what we want to promote. Can't guarantee it's going to work for everyone, but our job is try and work toward yes and solve problems. Like I said, we can't make everyone whole, but we're going to work toward that and help as many people as we can to get over this initial hurdle of, really what is a catastrophic disaster for this county.
And we have the same message as well. We're not here, our mission is not to necessarily make folks whole, but we are trying to bring you as close to par as possible. Our physical property loans go up to $200,000, and what we cover is uninsured and underinsured losses.
So I know of a case where a guy had a house. It was not in the mapped flood, 100-year flood zone where he had to have flood insurance. So he said he wasn't going to pay $3,500 a year for something he didn't need. Well, in 15 minutes, his house was flooded out into the road. In 15 minutes, I mean a full-size house, it went off like Noah's Ark. So could he conceivably get a 1.5, and he had a mortgage on the home. Could he do like, which he's still holding the bag on that, could he still,
The first line.
could he go with this 1.58% if he decided to continue on?
I would say yes, sir. The first line of defense for any homeowner or renter is their insurance company. And then you go to FEMA, and then you come to us, and if we can't help you, we send you back to FEMA.
Well, he probably needs to talk to you because he's heartbroken.
Yes,
he
sir.
said his homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover the flood.
Yes, sir.
Said they had been denied coverage because it was a flood, but yet he wasn't in the 100-year flood zone in the map.
And that's something that he should definitely take up with his insurance company. They may have a position on that. What we normally do is we defer to the insurance company for first claims, so to speak, and then we cover underinsured and uninsured. If the insurance company determines that he needed flood insurance for whatever reason, or if they won't pay, then he would be considered underinsured, and he could apply to our program and potentially get up to $200,000 at 1.563% for the structure and up to $40,000 for the contents, and try to rebuild from that.
Sounds like what people need to do is come to you guys, insurance first, then check with FEMA, then if they move over to the SBA, then they need to make a decision there, I think. I know of a lot of constituents that I've spoke to have went to that level and said, no, we don't want a loan, but it sounds like they need to possibly talk to you guys, listen to
They
you.
really should.
What you've got to offer them. I guess the question I would have is, if they do that, do they still have that 6 months to decide? Because here's the question. A lot of these businesses and individuals say, well, if, of course I know FEMA's not buying them out, but they say if we mitigate, get bought out, and we've got a loan now, can they say no to the loan at that point?
They can say no to the loan at any point. The most important factor there is when you said a business is looking at it, businesses can look at it from 3 different perspectives. They qualify for 3 different types of loans, or actually 4. The physical property loan, the personal property or inventory or equipment loan, the idle loan, the economic injury loan, and then the mitigation loan. So a business could quite feasibly receive 4 different loans. And our maximums for homeowners is $200,000 for the physical property, $40,000 for contents, $40,000 for mitigation, and businesses is up to $2 million. Yeah, it's in there. Yes,
And
sir.
that's, they have to apply.
And they have to
Right.
apply.
You know,
That's what we got to
fear
communicate.
of, I don't want a loan.
Right.
This is a loan that you can apply for, and you can sort of figure things out as you go. You can work the business plan and determine, okay, I'm on this path, I don't need it, drop it.
Right.
I do need it, you got it. And, you know, the intent here is, how do we keep your tax base intact?
Yep.
And that's, you know, that's part of our goal. How do you keep your residents here, and how do you keep your tax base intact and everything back on track? It's not going to be the same, but we're going to try and help get it there.
Our messaging is apply to FEMA immediately. In any disaster across the country, our message is if FEMA is involved, apply to FEMA immediately. apply to SBA immediately, as soon as things happen, as soon as you can. Because that way, your SBA loan could start to working and get approved even before insurance gets approved, or maybe even before an adjuster gets out to the property. Because in some cases, especially during COVID, we've been doing virtual looks at the property to determine, coverage and that kind of thing. So our messaging is apply ASAP. Apply now, apply today. Because FEMA is here is it sanitary, safety, and security? Yep. To provide sanitary, safety, and security to the residents, right? And then SBA is here to help them recover. FEMA's money is for sanitary, safety, and security to essentially get some place to live really quickly and get some food and be able to take care of things immediately. And then once you get kind of settled a little bit and you have your feet under you again, apply to SBA immediately. And then if for whatever reason SBA cannot help you, then we refer you back to FEMA. But if a person or business does not apply with SBA, they are not referred back to FEMA for additional consideration.
That's good to know. I got another question for you. I had a constituent last week that called, and I know that you require certain documents. However, both his home and his business got flooded, and he no longer has any of those documents. I'm sure you guys got some assistance to help him recover some of that information.
Yes, sir. What I would suggest to him to do is to reach out to one of the SBDCs, or in North Carolina, they're called SBTDCs. So small business, I don't know what the T stands for. Is it technical? So I believe it's technical. Development Center. Okay. And Mr. Byron Hicks is the executive director, and they're Googleable, and they can help hold the business owner's hand and walk them through recreating those documents, figuring things out, how to get those documents to the best of their ability.
Well, like you said, it's good to call because you never know. Just go ahead and call y'all and fill out what paperwork they can, and then they've got time to think about it and see if they want to do,
Yes.
and then you guys can explain it to them in the meantime. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
I did wonder on the, last time we had the hazard mitigation, I know we have somebody from the state here. Will the state maybe be setting up some hazard mitigation? They will? Okay. So we can tell people that maybe that's coming in the future. Is there like a month or two, or? Okay. All right. If you would I meant to tell John too, make sure you're talking to the mic, because I saw our video. And by the way, I know somebody's filming here, but this is filmed and it'll be on YouTube. So if you need to cut out a clip or something, it'll be on YouTube. This meeting, just Google this date. So.
Okay, Chairperson, Commissioners, County Manager, and other leaders. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Joe Stanton. I'm Assistant Director for North Carolina Emergency Management. There's two things I'd like to talk about 404 in just a second, but first, I would be behooved if I did not tell the commissioners what a great job the county managers and the EMS staff and the other staff at Haywood County did, and how they acted so valiantly and so wonderfully and professionally during this event. This is my 76th disaster, okay, and I've been all over the state and actually over the country. And I am very proud of the work that you have done to make this happen. And y'all should be very proud. You've got a very professional staff that cares about their citizens. And that's something to be very, very proud of. So I just wanted to make that statement. Secondly, on 404, the state of North Carolina is an enhanced status state. That means we get 20% of the total disaster dollars. This disaster, in terms of millions of dollars, we estimate it to be about $40 million. So there's going to be about $8 million going in to mitigation funding. The 404 staff, Steve McGugan and Chris Crew and some others they have reached out. They'll be reaching out more to start setting up those meetings to talk about buyouts and different types of programs that they can offer. There's several, and I don't want to pretend to get into all their programs, but what I can tell you is for businesses and others to be prepared. Start putting together the documentation. It will speed it up. Mitigation is slow. If we think recovery is slow, mitigation is a little bit slower. So, start putting together the documentation now. It's never too late, or it's never too early to do that. But again, I thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions that anybody may have.
Joe, I know you said it's going to take some time for the mitigation, but when do you expect that to start? I mean, do you know somewhat of a timeline?
Well, the state's already started. We have to have what is called a lock-in date. We have to determine the disaster, how big this disaster is actually going to be in terms of dollars. And so far, right now, this is the 13th day since the declaration. We've just done the preliminary damage assessments are completed. Now we're having the applicant briefings. We got to do some project formulations where, IA was just turned on. We have very good response so far. People are registering. We want to encourage that. But we have to have a picture of what this world for the mitigation is going to be. So it's going to be a few weeks before we really know in depth. But those guys have already reached out to the county, and they will continue to reach out and let you know what their plan is. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I know real estate here in the mountains is at a premium. I've been asked a question, well, what if they buy me out and the amount is not even enough to buy a lot? We have building lots here that may exceed any monetary compensation they get. So some of them said, well, I won't be able to afford it. And I guess they've been talking to you guys, but elevation, I've heard that brought up time and time again. If they could raise their floor joists up a foot above the high water mark and keep their property, that's still going to be on the table, correct?
I hope so. I think, the situation will dictate that, whether or not the home can be elevated or whether or not the property is situated in an area that is stable enough to be elevated and being safe. So I think, every situation is unique in that case and has to be studied on its own merits.
Okay.
Other questions, comments?
Anybody have any other questions?
This may not be in your purview, but I know Army Corps of Engineers was out the day or two after the flood, and they were making a new high water mark. You may not be able to speak to this, but will that be the bar's been raised, possibly 3 feet on the East Fork? Is that going to be the new gold standard as far as where that's at, the 100-year?
I really can't say. I don't know. I know that Geodetic Survey Group from Risk Management has also looked at some of the high water marks based on probably, I think they went back to the 2004 flood up here. And as you know, many of the same areas, some of the same areas flooded, and some of them were different in this flood. So I think we're just going to have to look and see.
I have one more question. Do either of the programs apply to personal bridges, private property bridges? That's been a real hot topic for us.
Okay. We want everybody to apply for individual assistance. Individual assistance does cover, in circumstances, will cover some cost of the bridge, but it's capped at, what's your max, $35,000 for?
Yeah, about 33.
We estimated in North Carolina this year for this disaster, for the average size bridge, it would cost around $75,000. So the state is working is, trying their best to push together a program to do the gap spending. However, I cannot say enough how important it is for people to register first, and then we can start going from there and looking at these gaps. There's different circumstances. Some homes have multiple, there's multiple homes to a bridge, and some people are just one home. And so we have to look at everything. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, by all means.
So the one thing I want to add to that, there's been two things like that, the bridges and well systems, well water systems, private wells. So we're looking at both of those, and we'll work through it. One recommendation, again, for your constituents, let them know. If someone comes out and says, oh, that's not eligible, don't accept that answer, all right? Call back, call the 800 number from FEMA and talk to someone about it, and let the National Processing Center know, hey, I have this problem. My well no longer is operable, or it's been contaminated, or whatever. Let the system know that, and we'll get that back going. From time to time, I have people that go out in the field and don't say the right thing, which is, tell us about it, we'll take it down and get it up the chain of command. Instead, they say, I don't think that's eligible. And that's not the right thing, and that's not what I want my people doing. I want my people getting the information when they're in the field and sharing that back up so that we have a team inside our joint field office that's going to work these kind of issues. What we can't solve, we'll bring to the state, or we'll pull in other federal partners. Our job is to try and find solutions and get people home. Like I said, doesn't always work, but don't start with no. Start with, let me find out. Okay? Thank you.
You got something, Brenda?
I was just going to make a comment to Joe, what he spoke of. I know our staff's done a wonderful job, for sure. We've bragged on them quite often. But I think the feelings are mutual as well. I know speaking with them, I got to meet you there the first day that declaration was declared. And I know many of them spoke highly of you, so we appreciate you guys and what you're trying to do for our county.
We're here to help, and we'll get through this, and we'll be stronger because of it. And y'all show that will all the way around. I'm very proud to be here, so thank you.
Okay, well, amen to that.
And I'd like to just also say, to talk about reconsideration, if a homeowner, renter, or business owner doesn't necessarily, we don't like to say the word decline, so I'm going to whisper it. But if a homeowner or renter or business owner does not receive a favorable determination from SBA, there is recourse to ask for what we call reconsideration, to look at the file a little bit more deeply, a little bit more widely, so that that person receives the full amount of care and consideration that they deserve.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything, Brian? Okay. Man, a few words. Does anybody have any other constituent concerns?
I think we answered a lot of mine during that session right there. So.
Yeah.
I've got one, Mr. Chairman. I know this past week I spoke to a friend and a constituent. We've all struggled with the internet problems across the county and our cell reception as well. And I know during this disaster we set up those mobile satellites, immediately right after the flooding, and they worked. So I guess the question is, I don't know what we need to do or what we need to discuss, but the question was, can we do that? Could we set up satellites at our local fire departments, for example, and help our internet and our cell reception? I don't know Brian, if you've got anything. I don't know who to look to. I'm looking around to see who the right person is, but it was a great question. And, you know, we think satellite's probably where the answer is. And it worked in Crusoe, for example. I mean, I talked to many constituents, says my internet was better, my cell reception, so maybe that could be the answer. So, anyway. Now tell me how we're going to do it.
We'll look into it. We received recently that Great Grants program to expand, especially not all the way up into the Crusoe area, but up Lake Logan. I know JJ with Skyrunner is very interested in expanding it more countywide. We can certainly look at that technology. I'm guessing that it's really expensive, and we probably can't afford it, but we'll certainly look into it and see if that's an option.
Yeah, I guess the question is, you know, can we do it, number one, and then number two, how much is it going to cost? But the bottom line is it worked, and if that's an answer, then maybe it's something we need to check into. But we can discuss that later. I just want to bring it up tonight. So.
You guys have anything? Jennifer, do you have anything, Jen? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentations. And the first item is the Haywood Recovery Fund, the Small Business Loan Program update. And our program administrator, David Francis, is going to explain that. Welcome, Dave.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Hope everybody's very well this evening. It's good to have FEMA and State EM here today. I would also like to reciprocate back how good they have been to work with as well, too. It's been a pleasure to get to know Joe and John throughout this process as well, and I feel very lucky that we have these types of individuals helping us out through this process. I want to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that make you aware of. Last year, during the height of COVID, one of the things that we started on was when our businesses were being shut down, we created a loan program. The county, the chamber, and Haywood Advancement Foundation came together and created a loan program for our small businesses here in the county. At that time, the county put in $100,000. $250,000 from Haywood Advancement, and through donations through the chamber, another almost $17,000 was raised for this fund. It was a very successful fund as well, too. We currently have 19 businesses underwritten with a dollar amount of over $180,000, totaling 135 employees were retained due to the help of this business fund. So what we did with this money is CC and Ronnie Leatherwood and I sat back down, created another fund to help the Fred flood victims, for the business victims for the Fred flood as well, too. So those folks that are affected by the Fred flood, not just for COVID, people were affected by Fred flood, along with COVID still, can go and apply for this fund as well, too. These are made to be bridge loans. The good folks from SBA gave some parameters there. And in the meantime, our loans might be able to be approved a little bit quicker that way, and they're not as much, there's a lot of paperwork that both sides need, but this will help, a company going through and applying for a business loan on this will help them get prepared for SBA as well, too. So we have that set up, and our parameters with that is that the loans can be up to $25,000 and came to see the borrower's level of impact from the disaster. 12 months of no payments at 4% interest, followed by 48 months of principal interest at 5.5% interest. There are no prepayment penalties, and defaulted loans are subject to collections as we had on anything else. So I just want to make sure that the commissioners and the public was aware of that. You can go to the chamber website, log in there through the loan program. CC and Ashley will be up here in just a second to talk about a grant program that was established as well too. Very successful was established in that grant program. So any commissioners about that? And y'all come on. No, good deal. All right.
Welcome, CC.
Make some big bullets with purple magic marker before I left the office today. Good evening. I'm talking about the small grants that we have. As David was saying, these small grants were created to help businesses just with a small grant up to $5,000. So a task force was formed first, and the partners included the Chamber, Mountain Biz Works, SBC, standing behind me, SBTDC, which the T is technology, the D is development, Mountain West Partnership, Western Carolina University, Community College as well. So with that, Mountain Biz Works agreed to manage the money, and we rolled what was left of the $17,000 over into the grant pool instead of the loan pool that the Chamber had put in through the COVID. And then a loan committee actually reviews the loans. They're meeting every week, and they're reviewing the loans that they've received. So this was just launched the week before last. So far, 14 companies have been reviewed, and 8 were awarded grants, which total $29,000, excuse me, $500. 5 were deferred for further conversation, and 1 was denied. So, like I said, Mountain BizWorks is managing those. The monies will be distributed electronically, and then the Chamber, SBC, and SBTDC will visit these businesses and check up with them and make sure that they have all the resources that have been discussed tonight. And also, in 6 months, we will do a survey. Any questions on the little grant money?
Did you want to say something, Ashley? Is that Ashley?
Yes, Ashley. She's new with SBC.
Yeah, so I just started at the SBC as the director for the SBC at the community college, and am housed with the SBA team down there. So they've been really great meeting with people, kind of meeting people where they are, trying to help them. And so I just thank you all for being there. Thank you for sending them to my door. I'm happy to help connect people if they have questions. They get guidance from the SBA and need help with documents like what you were asking. Work closely with the SBTDC team, and so have a number of resources for small businesses to help with those types of things, and have been doing disaster stuff, all COVID related, for the past 18 months. So it's kind of in the same wheelhouse in terms of the resources available. So the teams are pretty good at being responsive and helping people know what they need to get so that we can get them processed quickly. So that's all.
Anybody have any questions for that?
Make sure I'm right with it. So on the grant program, you had the $17,000 from the Chamber. Haywood Advancement took some of the money out of the loan program, took $50,000 out of the loan program, added it to the grant program, and United Way donated $30,000 for the grant program. And we are in the process, Duke gave the town of Canton $50,000, and we're moving that money over into this grant program as well, too. So it'll be nearly $150,000 in this program. So that's going to be very impactful and very helpful to our businesses there. Is that right?
Yeah, and I can give those numbers, David. So today, as of today, there was $146,000 in the fund, in which 29.5 of that I mentioned had been committed. So it leaves $116 left, which we are accepting donations on that side as well. And there was a gentleman that called me last week, and he wanted to make a contribution, and I told him he could, but he didn't want to do it electronically, so I told him he could send a check. So he sent a check today for $1,000 that will be added to that grant pool. So,
if anyone would like to add to that, I can just check with the Chamber. Okay, great.
There's 2 different places. So they can go to the Haywood Chamber website, and then at the very top it says Tropical Storm Fred, and they can go through there, and that goes to the grants, and it also goes to the loans that David's talking about. Or they can go to mountainbizworks.org, and that will also do the same thing, grants and loans.
Okay, great.
And this should be the businesses that have lost the ability to operate their business or have employees to pay. Who should seek these grants? What type of business should seek these
We're
out?
typically saying small businesses with 5 or more employees.
Okay.
So, but apply.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was 1 and 2, right, Dave, on your presentations? Okay. Okay, our next order of business is a discussion or adjustment to the agenda. I do have one additional change. We need to add to the regular agenda a request of approval of a contract between Mountain Projects and Haywood County in the amount of $23,729 for meal service for Tropical Storm Fred shelter residents, and approval for the county manager to execute said document. And Ira, did you want to speak to this? Well, wait a minute. So I'm going to add that to the regular agenda. Sorry. And then can I have a motion, because this is time sensitive. So can I have a motion that we suspend our rules?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. And then I need to add this to the regular agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Is that okay, Tracy or Amy? Okay. Okay. So that'll be item 2 of the regular agenda. Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any other discussion or adjustment to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions about the consent agenda that's as presented? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is any discussion at all?
Yeah, there's one on there about the, I know we approved the minutes last time. There was some things on there about the emergency 911 system where we approved some funds for some microwave dishes. Is there an update on that?
I believe the equipment was being tested today. The installation's complete. I haven't talked with Joey about the results of the test, but generally positive. He would have probably let me know if they weren't successful. I'll find out tomorrow and let you know, but I think the system will be up and running very soon.
Okay. Joey's back there. I didn't know if he wanted to say something or what. Okay. Okay, so all those, is there any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Anyone opposed? That's the regular agenda. I mean the consent agenda, I'm sorry. Are we good? Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. I'll request approval of a budget amendment from administration for $115,000 to allocate fund balance for the purpose of funding a through care manager position. The through care manager will be working with the North Carolina Criminal Justice System, Haywood County Manager's Office, the Haywood County Sheriff's Department, and the Haywood County Health and Human Services to implement a court services program. So, Bryant, I know you and the sheriff. Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
Give it just 1 second for the screen to warm up. Well, let's just go ahead and you all have it in front of you. What I'm going to talk about tonight is more than the program manager position. Getting this position staffed allows us to pursue the other things, but I wanted to give you a general overview of what we've called through care. We've been working on this better part of a year, and it really is based on, first and foremost, a statistically validated risk assessment for a pretrial program. But it does more than a regular pretrial program in that it tries to link folks with the resources they need. And the sheriff will probably tell you in a little bit, so many of the folks that are in our jail have substance use disorder, mental health problems, physical health problems. So we're looking at really a comprehensive way to break recidivism. So I'll kind of walk you through this. Please stop me if you have any questions. But keep in mind, the amendment or the agenda item that you have tonight is just for the program manager position, so we can get it hired, staffed, and let them help us build this program and seek funding sources outside of county funds. And these are our developed these mission and the value and the strategies internally. We've worked with judges, the sheriff's office, with Health and Human Services. We've talked to other folks that run programs in North Carolina and in other states. So we're trying to find the best practices and get just a top-notch candidate for this program manager job. You can see that the first strategy is back to that evidence-based assessment. There's all kinds of different models that are used, but they all at the foundation use a model that many call the Virginia model. It's based on a scoring system to determine risk. But after that, we actually then have a jail navigator position. You can think of this as a compliance officer. This keeps people that are going to be released pre-trial up to date on when they have court, just the different requirements that the judges upon pretrial release put on them. We also want to work with Health and Human Services for a nurse position to address the substance use, mental health, and also physical health. And we need a social work position to link them to other resources that are available in our community. Thinking about how this is going to be designed, the program manager for court services really is going to be a county department. We'll actually answer to the county manager, but this person is really going to work day to day in support of the judges. This isn't a county function. This isn't a sheriff's function. This is going to be dealing with the rule of law and the way the judges direct these positions to work. They're really going to be embedded over at the Justice Center, and day to day they're going to be there to support judges and the decisions they make. You can also see when it's fully developed, we think we'll need a data analyst because we want to have good data. Is the program working or not? We hope to get a grant to pay for most of this, and we need to actually have really good firm numbers on the success of the program. It allows us to see what needs to be worked on, what we're doing well, and just a general sense of how the program's running. I've already mentioned the health coordinator, the navigator, and the resource coordinator. And the other side of that is I think that position needs a sheriff's deputy, someone that can be there if somebody's not on pretrial and they break the terms of that pretrial. We have a deputy assigned to this program to take action quickly. I think one of the things is it's got that risk assessment, but we also need to make sure that the community is safe. Any questions so far?
Will these additional positions, data analyst, health coordinator, navigator, resource coordinator, and of course the deputy sheriff, will those be additional positions, or will we use people that we already have? A mix. One of the things as we build the program, we're going to start small, and hopefully over time we build it out to where current positions can't handle the volume. The workload may increase to the point, but we also don't want to sell ourselves short. Since we're seeking outside funding, we want to request what we think will be in the long-term need of the program. We don't want to short shrift ourselves to where it's not successful for lack of funds, because this is a critical attempt at our jail population, and we need to get it right. Kind of touch on what we're talking about, that holistic health, support structures, and social determinants of health. Lots of folks have challenges to their recovery and actually when they're doing reentry programs. When you're leaving the jail, we know your mindset is at a great point to tap into resources. So we're trying to really encapsulate the person out on pretrial in those services so they're successful and they don't come back to jail. On the flow chart, we really are thinking of it through those three different pillars, if you will. So the program director that we're talking about tonight is just that center portion. We're going to have court reminders. That means that you're going to get a phone call about your court date that's coming up, text messages. It may be that the judges think that somebody in this program actually needs
a phone call from a person. So that will be an option. Office contact, we may need to lay eyes on them for once or twice a week. Also, peer support and electronic monitoring. Some folks will need an ALCA sensor, a narco sensor. You may actually have a GPS bracelet. So technology is going to play a critical part in this. Back on the health side, we expect to do physical health assessments, the ACEs assessment, that's adverse childhood experiences, mental health, substance abuse, and then we really need to work with our partners in the community. VIA is there, Meridian will help in that fashion. And on the resource coordinator side, we've already talked with Mountain Projects about transportation services, and they do housing as well. And I had some tentative discussions with community college about a GED program. So we're trying to think through what folks coming out of jail need to be successful. This is just that center portion that I've already reviewed, if it was standing alone. And then this is the health coordinator side, and then the social worker side. Any questions on the flow and the services that we think we'd like to offer? So this is the flow chart again as one. I think tonight we're just working on that center piece. My hope is that we can recruit someone with a lot of experience in North Carolina in pretrial to help us set this up. This is a plan that we've came up with, but somebody with experience may show us where it needs to be tweaked here and there. One thing that we've talked about is constantly is to be flexible. We know we need to get the right person hired, and we want to commit to that to risk assessment to make sure that it's a safe community. But these other things, we really need somebody that has been in that field and can bring their expertise to our program so we get it right. So let me talk about a little bit of cost savings or cost avoidance. Our total jail beds is about 109, right, or is 109. We typically spend about $75 a day on housing. I think that number fluctuates between 72 and 83, but just for simple math, I use 75. Other programs in the state, or other places that have programs in the state, have a failure to appear rate of about 36%. But places that have the programs can get that failure to appear rate down below 5%. Now, this is where I hope we go, and it's not going to happen overnight. We've got a lot of work to do. But at 36%, we spend about $3,000 a day on housing failure to appear inmates. If we could get that down below 5%, then our daily cost would be just under or just $408.75 a day. We could drop our housing costs on failure to appears by just about $2,500 a day. So, yeah, $115,000 for that position is a lot, but if we can actually get to a point where we can save $2,500 a day in housing costs, it will pay for itself in less than 45 days. I think one of the things is our jail capacity is over 109. We've been shipping inmates for quite a while, so that doesn't take into consideration that cost, and it certainly doesn't cover the cost of shipping, meaning staff time to transport to Stokes County or to McDowell County, those kinds of things we haven't captured. But just on the FTA, I think it shows it's the right route to go. I know the sheriff's here. He could probably say something. I'll be glad to answer any questions or wait until after the sheriff has comments.
I have a question. Why is the failure to appear cost so much higher per day than just the average daily housing cost?
No, that's basically 36% of 109, and then I'll multiply that by the $75 to give you an idea of that. So, yeah, it's the same cost. I was just using that as a percentage to judge what.
Thank you.
Good evening. He sure does a good job explaining, don't he? Hey. Thank you, Brian. I'll be brief, but I will tell you that our jail population is not coming down. It's not going anywhere except up. We can house 109. Today I had 130 exactly. And so I had 15 that I found a place to bed. That means that I've got to get back on the phone and try to find a place to bed some more people tonight. We're transporting people as far as 125 miles from here daily. All it takes is just a phone call from their attorney that says, hey, I need to speak with him. We have to get in a vehicle and we have to go 125 miles, pick him up, bring the inmate back here. As a matter of fact, sometimes that conversation between the attorney and their client may not be 5 minutes. We have to put them back in the vehicle and take them back 125 miles. That's just the way it works. And it's going to work that way until that we come up with a new jail expansion. Because, and so what Bryant has tried to do is to help me reduce this number. He's exactly right. Today, out of the 130 that I had in jail, 37 was in there for strictly nothing but failure to appear. And we've got to come up with, we have to figure out a way to keep people from failing to appear. And the only other way to keep them from failing to appear, other than them making bond, is for us to continue to house them. And I can tell you, hey, this past week, I got a phone call every day from at least one sheriff, either a phone call or an email, asking me if I had any beds whatsoever to house people. And of course, I have to send them back an email or a voicemail and say, hey, no, I have no place to. Actually, I've got them in 5 locations now. So it's just one of those situations that we're having to deal with. Every sheriff in the state of North Carolina right now is dealing with some kind of overcrowding, some as many as 75 to 100, and some of our counties overcrowding. That's just the way it is. The thing about it is, in some of our counties that's got larger jails, they could house people, but they can't find employees, detention officers, to run the facility for them. So they have now started to have to close wings in their detention center in order to manage the inmates that they do have. So that's the things that we're dealing with. Something else that we're dealing with that I think maybe this navigator might help is helping us when it comes to medical issues. Our medical cost this past year doubled what it had been any other time since I've become sheriff. And the reason for that is just everybody that comes into that detention center is sick. We just don't have any marathon runners, no CrossFitters that are coming into our jail. Everybody that comes in that's being arrested, it appears, has some kind of either alcohol addiction or illegal drug addiction. We're having to put them immediately on some kind of a medication protocol in order to help them get through a detox program. And of course, a lot of these people we're having to send out to the jail out to the hospital. At one time, week before last, we had 3 in the hospital at one time. And of course, it takes an extra detention officer to sit with each one of these inmates. So it's just a very expensive endeavor to do what we're doing, and that is housing inmates. Plus we're paying their hospital bill. Yeah, plus we're paying a hospital bill. In fact, we just picked up one yesterday out of ICU from Mission. Hadn't got that bill yet, but I'm sure it's going to be very expensive. But that's the nature of the beast, and that's what we're dealing with now. So hopefully a navigator would be someone that could help us work through some of these issues, working with the health department possibly, or DSS, and other people involved with this. So, hey, we're grasping at straws right now, to be honest with you, to put something into place to keep the jail population down. but also to help those people. And I'll give you just a few numbers real quickly, and that is, out of this last fiscal year, we had 3,241 bookings in our facility. Out of that, that was 1,424 unique individuals. But right here's the kicker, and that is 602 of those people had multiple bookings, and to the point that that makes up 42% of our population for recidivism issues. So basically, it's the same people that continue to come in and out of our facility. And with that being said, our misdemeanor failure to appears this past year, we had 1,712 people charged with misdemeanors that failed to appear, that we had to go back out, pick up, bring them back in, and that number one charge now is failure to appear. We had 558 felony failure to appears. So the number one charge, when they bring them back in, go through the booking process again. The thing about a failure to appear is the magistrate will double their bond. So if you fail to appear one time, more than likely you're not going to make that next bond, so we have to keep them until we have a court date. And sometimes between continuances and the way the court dates fall, we may keep this person another 90 to 120 days before that they ever see a judge again. So it's just the cost of doing business, unfortunately. But I will say this as a positive here, as I back out of here, that is, with our Pathways Center program that we have continued to have with our 2 peer support specialists, 75% of the women over the last 18 months that has left our facility that went to the Pathways Center has not been back in our facility. 78% of our men, this is the first time that our men has actually outdone the women as far as a percentage goes, but those percentages are records that I keep, and the Pathways continue doing a great job to help us establish some support for these people that show that they're not coming back into our jail.
That's a huge savings to the taxpayer.
It really is.
I mean, a lot of people want to, unfortunately, for some reason, I hear people bashing Pathways sometime, and it's like, you just don't know. And I think you've said it too. You just don't know how much they've helped taxpayers by keeping the costs down that we're talking about right now. I mean, without that, ain't no telling how many there's no telling how many you would be sending out of this county.
And you're right, Chairman. You know, and the fact of the matter is, we have been able to keep those jail numbers somewhat within reach since 2013, and so we're very thankful for all the help that we get. Any questions?
Yeah, that 36%, Sheriff, while you've been sheriff, has that just spiked up in recent years, or has it always been that high, the failure to appears, or?
Let me look and see if I have failure to appears from.
Is that just something we're seeing recently, or has that always been a?
I can tell you that in fiscal year 2018, we had 1,095 failure to appears.
You had 1,700
for misdemeanors, and we had 307 failure to appears for felonies. That's
huge. That's a huge increase in 3 years.
It is a huge increase.
Trying to connect the dots. I can't get my mind wrapped around that big of an increase. What happened? I mean, I'm wondering to myself, what happened? Does people just can't get there? They don't respect the law, or?
Our recidivism rate has gone up 8% since that year. So, hey.
But that's going in the right direction too.
and our total bookings have gone up 300.
Yeah. You know, I'm a troubleshooter. I fix things, and when I go to the root cause analysis. You know, we're treating a symptom over here. I'd like to find out why in the world is the thing went up so drastically, and try to attack over here instead of the problem. We're just treating symptoms kind of with this. We are. We got a problem and we're treating symptoms when we maybe could go to the source. We got a huge problem here. That's a huge increase. And now we're putting a Band-Aid on something, and we're not really doing anything to make people respect the law, or I don't know. That's part of a bigger discussion, I guess. But
I do know that with our pretrial program that our court system has now, that some that used to get a higher bond, it has been reduced. And sometimes whenever it's reduced, I think that may be some of the issues where that people, instead of getting a written promise, they may have had a $1,000 bond or a $2,500 bond that they had to make. And so now with a written promise, obviously, they don't have anything, they don't have anything at stake if they don't show up. And so I think sometimes, I'm not sure that that's what it is, but that you know, if you don't have any skin in the game except to come to court, and if you don't come, then we have to come out and go out and find you. Yeah,
I mean, I know Brandon's in the tire business, and I'm sure he loves to see somebody come getting a plug put in their tire 2 or 3 times a week, but they'd be better off looking to see where the nail is in the board in their driveway.
Yeah.
You know, get that board out of the driveway. It's got a nail sticking up in it, and you wouldn't be having to plug the tire 2 or 3 times a week. I don't know.
So speaking to what you were saying about people coming back, I think my concern is, and I've voiced this with Bryant several times, is that whoever feels, I think the question tonight is the budget amendment to fund the position, but whoever fills that position has got to really watch the numbers. There's no point in having this position or this program if we can't monitor it closely. And I feel like that, and maybe y'all will agree, that there are, you know, constituents, people in our community who feel like we're just slapping them on the hand, and we need to make sure that we're getting some resolution, that we're turning these folks around and that they're coming back to court and doing the things they need to do and not coming back to jail. So I've said that over and over again. I think I'm very optimistic that this program will be helpful, but I feel like if it's not, we have to nail the person that leads the program. We have to know that we've got a quality person who's firm and educated and can hold their feet to the fire, I guess, is the best way. They have to be responsible to make it successful.
And that's one of the reasons that I've talked about drug court for so long, is that connectivity between our jail and our court system has got to work hand in hand. It has to be tied together. And one of the things that we see with counties that have drug court, that accountability piece, whenever somebody is sentenced, it goes a long way with working with the court system. So I think that the navigator, if it becomes reality, has got to be somebody that has daily communication with the court system, with our judges, because that from pretrial all the way out to sentencing, because that's where that piece has to come in. And then the accountability on the back end of having ankle monitors and whatever else that it takes to make sure that people are being held accountable. That's one of the things that we don't have is the accountability piece. And so that's the reason that it'll have to be somebody who works every day with the court system.
No, if we get close to this 5%, I know it's a long shot, but if that savings per day, running the quick numbers, quick math there, it's almost $1 million a year. So it could well pay for itself if the program works. I think that's what you're looking for. I guess I got two questions, Sheriff. One of the questions is, if we send an inmate out, can you refresh my memory on what that costs us per inmate? I know we're around $75 a day now, but if we ship an inmate out, what's the cost on that?
It's 55, well, it depends on where you're going to ship them to, because some counties charge us more than others, but its average is about $55 a day, not counting medical and not counting any transportation cost or hourly employee cost to transport back and forth.
Supervision, yeah. The supervision of the deputies, I mean, that's,
oh, yeah,
that's
exactly.
way up there.
Yeah.
Got to sit with them.
Yeah.
If they go to the hospital, you know. I guess the other question is maybe more for Bryant, but do we know of a county close by that this program's working well for? And then the second question is, I know that we're hoping that we can get some funding to help pay for this position. Does that county that I asked a question about, are they getting funding from, I guess, the state now to help fund that position?
I'm not sure about their funding. I know that pretrial programs are common in many other places. The one thing that makes this unique, and back to Commissioner Long's, I think this one is trying to treat some of the symptoms. That when we get it up and running, that we're going to deal with people's emotional health and substance use, those things, to try to break that cycle. And so this one's a little bit more unique than just a pretrial program that stands alone. Because that part of working with the courts, working with the sheriff's office to get someone out and having, stipulations on your pretrial release, I don't want to say that's low-hanging fruit, but that's the easy one. But helping people change their own behavior, that's the tougher part. I'm not aware of any that have approached it like this. That may be a good thing or it may be a bad thing, that we're really swinging for the fence. But I think that will give us the best shot at what did he say, 600 folks multiple times. We know the folks that are repeat customers. Those are the ones that are great candidates for this, to see if we can help them change their behavior and, get, I don't want to say get on the right track, but to a large degree, quit going back to jail.
Well, there's no doubt we need to do something. I know we're grasping for straws, but, the faith-based programs, as we were just talking about, if we hadn't had them in place, where would we be today? Thank goodness that because of those programs, it's kept the numbers down, to where we're just now having a conversation where we may have had this conversation years ago. So I guess this is a second step where we're trying to, even though we're not going back to the source and the root cause, that may be, coming later on down the road. But I guess we do have to take some kind of step to try to help with the numbers, because we can't build a jail by tomorrow.
Well, that's the other point. We're shipping those inmates. There's a cost to that. If we started building the jail tomorrow, it's probably 30 months. So we've got to try something in between to lower our cost. You did the math. If that saves $1 million over a year, if you annualize that over, or if you project that over 30 months, there's real savings if we can make improvements.
Brian, could you possibly say that COVID had anything to do with this, because we didn't want to have our jail population up? I know across the state we were trying to move people out, not move them into confined spaces, and then maybe we reduced the bond, or you reckon the COVID could play into these numbers?
I think
where they didn't have really a lot of skin in the game to show up to court because they...
That few days before the state shut the court system down, they worked with the sheriff to empty the jail on low-risk folks. The folks that were there were because they were a risk, so that was huge. Also, courts were suspended for I don't know how many months, so that was, we've seen our jail population tick back up when the court system started back up.
So that's part of the discussion. It has to be.
I mean, they're all interlocked. Yes, sir.
Hey, Brian, on this, did you have something, Kurt?
No, I mean, this is just, to me, it's just the financial decision that has to be made. I mean, when you've got 109 beds and you've got 130 people that's supposed to be in jail. Today I was back at district court for the first time in a while and listened to calendar call, and I can tell you that probably 25% of the people were called and failed. And it was what they call an oh-no day. It wasn't even a day where officers are prosecuting. So, you know, there's just something has to be done. This will be, I can see this being very beneficial in trying to get people there. I think the second part of it is really most important, and it really gets back to what you're talking about, Tommy, and that is what's the root cause of this? Well, a lot of the root cause of this is a tremendous substance abuse, and not just alcohol, but serious drug abuse, where they get multiple charges, and who knows how they wake up or where they wake up or what they're thinking, but they don't get to court. And that's been an increase. At least I've seen on the calendar the few times that I've looked at it, an increase in that. So, and some of these FTAs, you know, it'd be nice to eliminate all of them, but some of the people that get caught and failed, well, they didn't come to court for a reason, probably because they're going to go to prison. Yeah. So, you know,
a lot to discuss.
But this is a step that we have to take, it appears, because you can't take the time to ship that many people out and continuously use our employees and pay our employees to take care of these folks. You just can't do it.
So, Brian, on your numbers there, you got 5% is estimated. Well, 36% is what the cost is, what the appear rate without the program, and 5% when you do have a program. Did you look at, where did you find that?
Those are a program that have been up and running for a better part of 2 decades down in Gastonia. And I've worked with Doug Lance, runs the nonprofit where that's housed. And he's talked with the sheriff and myself a couple of times about how, you know, he's got basically 3 decades of learning how to run a program like this. And, those numbers are theirs, but they're not much different than if you look in other areas. Failure to appears are an issue everywhere because, well, sometimes they forget, sometimes they don't want to go to jail.
Right. But I mean, and then too, we can continue this program if it's successful after the jail's built. It's going to keep our population down, which means we don't have to have the people in there running it. If we've got extra space, we've got extra space. But if we don't have to house them, there's not that cost and stuff. And then the other thing, I just want to make a comment. I guess I just think everybody knows this, but I'm on the homeless task force, and one of the things about this pre-release program, or I guess that's what it's called, the trial program, I just want everybody to know, Judge Letts, this program, from what I understand, Mark Martin was the Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. He's a Republican. He asked Judge Letts to do this program. And Judge Letts seems to be being bashed because he's doing this program. And this program, and I talked with Judge Letts about this, Judge Letts said that, I'm not saying it's perfect, and it doesn't need to be, you know, critiqued some, but he basically, this program has worked well, they think, and other areas and a DA and other district judges are looking at implementing this program. In Forsyth County, and there was one more, and I can't remember where it was, but this program is looked upon as being fairly successful. And I know people like to bash Judge Letts, and I think I'm right about that, Sheriff. I mean, the sheriff, he sees it every day too. When they arrest somebody, they don't let violent criminals back out. They basically have a formula that the magistrate looks at and uses to come up with releasing that. It's just that Judge Letts isn't letting them out. It's that this formula that they've set up basically categorizes what people's bonds are and whether or not you can let them out. And if they're a violent criminal, they don't get out at all. You know, don't think that they're getting out. It's everybody. It's only nonviolent criminals, right, Sheriff? You can critique me if you need to, but I think I just want everybody, I want to get the word out on that, because this is a program that, you know, in the judicial world, I guess, is somewhat working. Now, Walmart might disagree with us, because I'm sure shoplifters go right back there and do, and I'm sure that's frustrating for them or other businesses where that type of crime is being committed. But just to give you all some background on how that program came about and why it's here. And, you know, he was asked by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to do this program, was what Judge Letts told me. And then so, and the program has kept our jail population down and has saved taxpayers money by not having to house these folks while they're on pretrial release. So that's, I just wanted to throw that out because I knew that, and I thought, well, I haven't said that at a county commission meeting, but anyway, just to give you all this kind of little FYI, if you will. Does anybody have any other questions about that? Okay, just wanted to get the facts out on that one. Okay, so does anybody have any other? Okay, I asked that. So I'll entertain a motion we approve item 1 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
I guess the only other discussion I would say is maybe at some point we can come back, you know, not let this get lost, but maybe come back to see if the program's working. Because I think, Jennifer, that was your concern, and that's my concern as well, because I don't want to do something and throw money at something if it's not working. So maybe we can look at it at a later point.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm excited to see how it does work, because I know it was always exciting to hear Pathways numbers. The sheriff always shared those with us because he keeps up with the recidivism rate in the jail. And that was always exciting to hear how that was working, and still is. And you said it was increasing, I believe you said, Sheriff. So that's great, especially with what we've got to deal with in the jail. Okay, all those, is anybody any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, the next item number 2 is what we added, and Ira, if you want to come up and present that. This is a request, the approval of a contract between Mountain Projects and Haywood County in the amount of $23,729 for meal service for Tropical Storm Fred shelter residents, and approval for county manager to execute said contract. Go ahead, Ira. Appreciate you being here tonight.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. This is a contract to help feed the survivors of the flood that are in the shelter. Essentially, Mountain Projects, we have presently 43 families, 81 people in the shelter. We have served 59 families, 116 people since we have moved from Tuscola. At Tuscola, we served quite a few, you know, a number that very short term, but that's how many we've served since we moved from Tuscola. This contract would provide, you know, 50 breakfasts, 75 lunches, and 75 dinners and snacks per day. They deliver it to the site, and that's essentially what the contract is. The cost that they have for per day is $1,694.86, and that's what we're asking to do, very simply, just to provide the meals for the shelter.
How many folks did you say? I didn't hear you, Ira.
Right now, we have 43 families, 81 people.
And those are displaced victims from the flood?
Correct. That's what we've got, is people that have come in. They have, or they sought evacuation from the flood, and we are working through trying to get them where they need to go, kind of things. And displaced.
Do you have any idea how long that will continue? $1,694 a day.
How long will it continue on the county? Well, we received the extension from the feds for 30 days. The original was 30. You receive an extension. Then other programs may take over. So I don't know whether or not the feds will offer, what kind of programs they'll offer at the end of this 30-day extension. But we're on an extension from the original 30 days.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's...
Go ahead.
We are responsible for sheltering.
One of the next programs that we're eligible for, that we're working on, is TSA. It's Transitional Survival or Survivor Assistance. And if we get that, or then the next step is direct housing, then it won't be the county actually running that operation. It will fall to a contract between a provider and FEMA. So we'll be removed from the requirement of needing to feed. I'm not sure if I mentioned, we will submit this to FEMA for reimbursement. We have to, like everything else with FEMA, we have to put the money up front and then get it back at some point in the future.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2 of the regular agenda that was added.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. No one opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That is unanimous. Okay, we don't have any appointments. Our next order of business is a closed session. Personnel, GS 143-318.11A6. I'll entertain a motion. We go in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Okay, we'll be in closed session when we enter our chambers in the back. Okay, we're back from closed session. Does anybody have anything for the board? We don't need to do anything, do we, Tracy? Do anything? Okay. Okay, I'll entertain them. Anybody have anything for the board? I'll entertain a motion we adjourn.
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.